again. I am with Andy from Snow Camps Europe, and I am Paul from SIA.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Andy. So today, very simple. Is skiing really that difficult? Andy, I've put my crickets back on again. My sound effects are going mad. Is skiing really that difficult?
Is it? It all depends. But so from a beginner perspective, not really, no.
No. All right. No. I mean, I would say skiing is, I think I referred to it like the lazy man's sport as well, because look, you've got gravity. It's like gravity is just pulling you down a slope, and you know that's how a lot of people ski. You know, they just sort of stand on the skis, they're 80, 90 kilo, and they just
wiggle their way down.
And yeah, there's like a little worm going down the hill, and therefore I think that's why in that episode where we talked about skiing and golf, I think I said that, because really, if you're just out to ski from hut to hut, have a glass of wine, you know, an après beer, an apple strudel, whatever it is, I think everybody's worked out after a few weeks that they can sort of do that. They can get around a red run, blue run, black run, and they can ski, and that's the idea of a holiday, and it's absolutely fine. I think the potential to do that is there. You don't actually need to move that much to get these modern day skis to get you down the hill. And of course that's a problem, because it can wind up ski instructors, ski coaches, and people who are in the industry, or people who think they're awesome, because they'll criticize the average recreational skier going down who thinks he's skiing, but at the end of the day they're having a great time, they're enjoying themselves, they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah. And as I said at the beginning, learning to ski is not difficult. If you want to become a very good skier, then yeah, you've got to put in some work. But because of the modern day equipment, learning to ski has become a lot easier. And therefore, if that is what you want to do, as you said, go from hut to hut, have a gin and tonic at the end of every run, it's quite easy. As long as you get the fundamentals at the beginning right, you can ski around most of the mountain and have a good time.
Yeah, which leads to the problem of even, you know, people getting caught out in avalanches and things like that, because again, ski equipment has allowed people to do off-piste skiing in relatively steep and dangerous and terrain that would never really venture into that terrain in the past, because again, equipment has made it more accessible. So, you know, moving aside from that though, and actually talking about, is skiing that difficult? Yes, but no, in the sense of, yes, if you want to look like, you know, a World Cup racer, skiing is extremely difficult. You've got to do all the background. You've got to do all the fitness work, all the mobility, the stabilization. You've got to be fit, strong. You've got to lift double weight squats, etc. But if you're the guy who just wants to go down the black run, stand on the skis and bend them by being centered, no, it's not. It's a lazy man's sport in one sense. You have to decide on your development. But I would even say people who don't, you know, want to be a world-class racer, but do want to improve their skiing, still not that difficult. You can get a lot better without having to put in the work. Now, that sounds strange because, you know, if I was talking, let's say, with Tom at the minute, you know, he always pulls me because I'm always telling people to do the work in the background. You know, it's really important that you're ready, you're fit, you're strong. And I'll get onto that when we talk about fitness and skiing into your 50s or whatever. But at the minute, I'm going to look at the other side of the coin and say, actually, relatively unfit people, you know, if you're stuck behind a desk most of your time, that's what you do. You work behind a computer, and you can still come ski and still get better at it. With the help of a good ski instructor who's not trying to give you an unrealistic goal.
Yep.
They know how much you can develop in that week. They're aware that, yeah, you don't spend time doing heavy deadlift squats, you know, I don't know, playing football or whatever it is. You know, you've got a family, your time's very minimal, and you just want to come out and ski and improve a bit. It's still possible.
Yeah. It's, as you said, if they understand that you are what you can achieve. And an example I had a few years ago is I had a guy who turned up, and it was one of those, the lesson's not for me, it's for my wife.
Right. Yeah.
But by the end, could you show me how I do a 360? We actually got up onto the slope, and I asked his wife to ski towards me, and I kind of identified a couple of things that we probably needed to work on, and then he skied towards me and I identified about 10 things he needed to work on, but the lesson wasn't for him. And one of them was he was never going to achieve a 360. And even though the lesson was for his wife, by the time we got to the end, he said, "You've not taught me how to do a 360. I said, "Well, because it's not within your grasp, you know."
Unless you want an injury.
Yeah, and I think there's an element of people need to be realistic of what they can achieve, and they also need to, the teacher needs to be realistic in what they can achieve, given the time frame that you've got them for.
Yeah, and that's one of the hardest skills that you learn within coaching, is that you are trying to be sensitive to people's goals, but at the same time make sure they're realistic, those goals, and sell them to that goal as well.
Yeah.
Because they may have that in mind of wanting to ski that black run up there or whatever, but you know, even by the end of the week, that's not going to happen. And it's not that you've failed that person, actually the opposite, you've saved that person from struggling their way down that and claiming to have skied it or ending up in hospital. So it's, and of course, skiing, falling to the other side, yes, look, if you can prep yourself up before your skiing holiday, then great. I always say, you know, why are you getting fit to go skiing? You should always be fit. But that's just my cynical approach to it. You know, you need to take a few weeks before a ski vacation to strengthen your legs. You know, there's no doubt about it. It will make a difference. To improve your cardiovascular fitness, it will make a difference. But if you don't have that time, and, you know, some people are fully committed to it, but they just got families, they've got jobs and stuff like that. What we're saying is you can still come out on a ski holiday and improve with the right coach and the right trainer. Because if you've got the right equipment on your feet and you are centered, even not having to worry about excessive movement that we might look at within isometric, concentric movement patterns and all sorts of things we'll talk about in the future, you can still start to bend that ski effectively to get some light carving style turns and to make relatively dynamic ski turns in the short turns, even without the fitness level. I would argue anyway. I would say that.
No, I would say you're right, but I would also say that I remember very first time I went skiing, I went with the school at 11 and they came around 6 weeks before and they gave us a printout and they said, right, go home and do that every night. And it was like wall sits and squats, single-legged squats. There's loads of exercises to do at home. And we were 11-year-old kids that were running around a playground, but they were like, skiing is going to be taxing. You need to do some exercise. And some of us went home and we did it and we had a great ski holiday, and some of us didn't go home and do it, but they still had a great ski holiday.
And this is the thing. I mean, obviously in my profession, I've spent years programming and doing things for people, and generally I'd say my experience, especially in my younger years, was people just didn't do it anyway. You know, you'd spend all this time trying to get a program for somebody to prepare for whatever it was, a marathon, whatever, skiing, and people just don't tick those boxes because life gets in the way of a lot of people. You know, there's no doubt about it. And from that side of things, skiing is not that difficult if you you're in the right mindset. I think the mindset can be problematic for beginners. Now, most intermediate level skiers, they've passed that stage, and I think they just get into a rut of being happy with that rut as well and claiming that rut's actually really cool and looks good and the stuff. So they then don't take the lesson because now they've maybe skied, I don't know, they would say, like, let's say 7 years, but what they mean is 7 weeks.
7 weeks, yeah.
They mean 7 weeks. Yeah. And if we take Ericsson's theory of, you know, how long does it take you to master something, that's 10 years. Right. They would say, oh, ski 10 years. No, you ski 10 weeks. Yeah. And that 7 weeks is still beginner phase. And they shouldn't be embarrassed about coming and saying, I need some help now. And I think a lot of people are just embarrassed to ask for help. Like that guy you're saying, you know, he said, oh, it's for my wife because I'm ready to do a 360. Yeah. It's an embarrassment almost because they've raised themselves onto a pedestal, and now it's hard to sort of come off that pedestal and say, well, actually, I'm shite. Yeah. Not that good.
Yeah, I think also for some people it's not so much as Paul puts it that they're shite, is that they are actually, or they were pretty good skiers, but they've now started to get into some bad habits because those habits haven't they've not yet been corrected, but they've not been identified as a cause of hindering their skiing. And I use one example, which is one of the most likely examples for people who've skied for several weeks. When you were taught to ski, you were taught to have your arms in a certain position away from your body, let's say. The first thing that people lose, from what I see quite often with tourist skiers, recreational skiers, is they drop their arms. The minute they drop their arms, it can lead to all sorts of other things. And they're wondering why they can't ski as well as they did, because they formed a bad habit, and they're not going to get out of that habit until it's addressed, and therefore it needs to be addressed by someone who can identify what they've done wrong. And again, and
have a passion, I think, to identify what it is they're doing wrong. That's the issue. Because look, any ski instructor identifies, oh, your arms are down, but look, there's over 2,900 body movement possibilities underneath the arms. So the arms is one issue, but if somebody addresses arm carriage, it's then having a coach who addresses arm carriage, and it's on your arse from day 1 to day 6, making sure that if there's one thing you get out that ski holiday is you're never ever going to let them arms drop. It's like, when you learn to drive and you the push-pull 10-2 system, and then all of a sudden you're going, and this is what happens in time. The discipline goes and you end up cutting corners, and cutting corners in skiing can lead to some simple things can put major things back into order if you correct them. Certainly one thing that catches skiers out and makes them realize sometimes that skiing is hard is when they suddenly go on a holiday and the conditions aren't what they're expecting or what they had last year. So last season they had full on groomed, prepared every night, nice little 2-3 centimeters of snow coming in and softening it up. And then they arrived to some either dry season, crispy, cruddy, crappy ice, death cookies all over the place, or equally deep powder. And all of a sudden they realize that, yes, they are that skier because they can only ski in one particular type of snow, and unfortunately you can't predict, am I going to get that perfect groomed slope on this on this ski holiday.
I remember my first season was 1988, and we had loads of snow. It snowed and it snowed and it snowed all season, and we didn't really come across anything other than relatively good quality snow. And then I stopped working and I started being a tourist, and I went on a January second week of January holiday, which we've spoken about on one of the other podcasts. And I then went on an April Easter holiday to St. Anton. And I very quickly realised I'd never skied slush. Yeah. And that slush is not easy. And again, you'll get people later on in the season who can normally ski, or they can normally ski to good conditions, but the minute they hit the slush, it's all gone to pot.
Yeah. And what's the worst thing that can happen for us, especially in Ski Instructor Academy, the world's largest ski and board instructor academy? The worst thing that can happen is day 1, we get heavy snowfall when they're hitting the slopes for the first time. So here they are arriving, all these people who can ski, they're coming on a ski instructor course, and hey, 200 people arriving on snow with 20 centimeters of powder, not skied for maybe 12 months or even longer, 24 months. And all of a sudden, they're out the depth. And of course they get frustrated. Yeah. They don't like it. And you try and explain to them, look, when the sun comes out, because visibility is the big one, when the sun comes out and that snow is all packed down, you'll be a different person.
You'll be 10 times better.
Yeah. But they get frustrated because of that, and it's purely just conditions, and we're in an open environment.
But the equally, and it's a funny one, because on that first day of the course, if it is like that, it's dire. But then at the end of the course, when we send them off to the resorts, what do we say to them? Go and ski the worst conditions you can possibly find. Yeah. Try to stay away from the piste. Ski the variables, ski the slush, ski the ice, ski anything but perfect conditions. Why? Because you're going to become a better skier.
Yeah, I can remember when I first did the ski qualifications, and
it's a long time ago.
We after the first season got to level 2 and we're on the way to 3, and we came and skied Austria for the season, and it was a bad season. It was really icy. Skied ice all year. Went back to the same place in New Zealand then to further the education, and everybody else who came back had all done America. And they'd had a great season. Yeah. So they came back. who were the best skiers at the top of the bunch? Me and Jamie,
Yeah, the
because
ones
we'd
who
skied
skied
ice all season, and all the rest came back. And what were they? Lazy skiers.
Yeah.
They came back soft skiers and actually arms by the sides and all sorts of weird things, because the conditions meant it was grippy. It was grippy all the time. It didn't matter what you do. You could lead in, you could twist, you could drop your arms, you know, you could scratch your ass, and it was grippy. Whereas we've been chattering around like, you know, gripping onto death cookies under your foot. Yeah.
Dear life. Yeah.
You come back and you were far better balanced skier. So having challenging conditions can be great. And look, eventually those challenging conditions of whether it be ice or crud, it does become easier. I mean, one thing I know from when we do video analysis with people and we're videoing in cruddy conditions, really crappy conditions, you know, people will come down and they'll go, oh, it was a terrible run, really crap, you know. But actually, when you get down, you look at a video, it's actually not a bad run. It's good. They're just feeling a lot more impacts under their feet. They're feeling a lot more chatter under their feet. And that makes you think in your brain, emotionally, that's been a bad run. But actually the run, look on video, it's actually, oh, wow, it looks smooth, because people don't feel what you felt. They don't feel, they don't feel centrifugal force or centripetal force. They don't feel anything. They just see a smooth run down the track.
I quite refer to it with people when I say to them, how did that feel? And they say it felt dreadful. I'm like, no, the feedback you're getting from the snow felt dreadful. And then they look at the video, as you've just said, and it looks quite good. And I do it myself. I'll ski down and go, God, that felt
horrendous.
Yeah. And then again, you look at the video and go, oh, it actually looks quite smooth. I'm quite impressed. Yeah.
So from a perspective of is skiing easy? Well, is it really so hard? It's if you're happy and you're going to let gravity take you down the hill, stand on the center of the ski, and you're not really interested in the fore and aft movement, the vertical movement. You're not going to go into the bumps, for example. You know, you're never going to be a mogul skier, or you're always going to find them challenging. Then skiing on a pisted run can be relatively easy, because if you've got the right kit on your feet, you're going to have fun, you're going to enjoy it, and it's not too strenuous, I would say. The actual strenuous part, where people often say to me, they'll go, oh, I know I did the first day and I was in bits. And I look and I think, well, they weren't really moving. Obviously, it comes to a future podcast where probably they're not used to moving anyway. But secondly, they've been in a sort of dorsiflexed position. So the pressure, the feeling is that they're crouched all the time, and as a result their calves blow up at night time, and then obviously their thighs as well, so they start feeling in the legs. Just make sure, I think, that this person's able to extend and stand back up, because anybody who sits crouched all day or skis crouched all day, you're going to feel stiff at the end of the day. The key trick, if you're not really that fit, is you're probably going to have to be more extended than crouched if you want to ski all day, or you're going to have to choose to ski half days and not ski the full day, because especially on the first day, you're going to end up stiff the next day. It's the DOMs are going to kick in. So I think, Andy, I would say that anyone can ski, and
pretty much, anyone can ski. It's easy to learn. It's hard to master.
It is hard to master. From a learning perspective, yes, if you are learning, you tend to learn on flat slopes. And flat slopes are where it is more challenging, in the sense if you do fall over, it's quite hard to get up on a flat slope, because you don't have a wall, if you like, of a slope next to you. You're having to pull yourself up. You have to move around a lot when you're learning. So that is the strenuous part of skiing, if you like. Not that it's hard, it's just strenuous, because you're walking, you're moving around, you don't have gravity assisting you down a steep run, for example. So it's strenuous. No doubts about that.
It's an activity, it's a sport. And it surprises me the number of people who turn up on day one and after half an hour are wondering why they are tired.
And it is. I mean, come on, you've got, you're not just lifting, your feet anymore. You've got this big plastic boot, you've got a ski on your foot. So if you're asked to sidestep uphill, it's more strenuous than people think.
It's like carrying a small dog with you.
Yeah, at least. So be prepared for a little bit of work, but we'll talk more about fitness and things, etc., and the mechanics of skiing in later podcasts. So you can ski. Anything to add, Andy?
No, I think we've nailed it.
See you on the next one.
Bye for now.